Okay, I want to talk about how to use the solver function to take a list of income statement items and match them up to the numbers on the tax return. This tool here we're going to go over uses a bunch of different solver functions and VBA code to highlight which ones match up to each return line. Before we get there, though, I'm going to talk about the solver function. So this is a great YouTube video. He talks about the basic function that's used in the solver, and it gives instructions on how to do that, how to turn on solver. Turn on solver, you go File, Options, Add-ins, Go, and then there's a solver add-in there. We're also going to need to turn it on in VBA. So if you come over here to Developer, Visual Basics, and up here to Tools, References, there's a solver checkbox right there. It'll be somewhere down here. You got to check that. Once you have those going, you'll have the solver button here on the Data tab. So we have a list of numbers right here, and you can see these total to 4,907. So if we were to select a couple random ones here, 2,436. Now, with these being linked, we can come up here to Formulas, Trace Precedence, and it tells us exactly which ones make up this number. So let's say we didn't have this formatting behind it. We just had this number, right? We're not going to be able to, it's not going to tell us what that is. So how do we quickly figure out which numbers make up this one right here? So what we're going to do at first is we're going to come down here, we're going to put equals some product. Doesn't matter where this is, but it just has to be somewhere because this is what we're going to click on when we do the solver function. So we're going to hit equals some product. The first array is going to be the array right next to it here. This is where we're going to have the solver function is going to return either a 0 or a 1, and the 1 is going to indicate that this number makes up is a part of what makes up this number, and a 0 is going to indicate that it doesn't. So this is where that's going to go. And the second array is going to be our numbers here, and we're going to hit equals. Okay. Now, so we're going to come up here. I believe that's all we got to do there. We'll come up here, see set object. Set object is going to be right here, I believe. Changing these cells right here. Our value, we're going to have this set up to where our VBA code does this automatically, but when we're manually doing it, we're going to have to come over here and manually enter the number that we want it to find. So 2,436. Also going to add a constraint, and we're going to do this by clicking cell reference, and we're going to highlight these cells that we want the 0 and the 1s to return on, and then we're going to click binary. And what this does is this makes sure that only 0 or 1s return in this column here. Otherwise, if we didn't have this, it would say, it would probably return a number only here, 547. It would tell you what number times 547 would give you this. We don't want that. We want it to just return us a 1 to indicate which numbers make up. So you don't need to choose this. We select binary. So we're going to click add. We're going to cancel out of this. You can see that's added there. And down here, we're going to choose simplex LP. I believe that should work. Let's give it a solve here. All right. So this returned. You can see it indicated that this number here, and this number here makes up that. So we're going to highlight these. That makes up 2,436. So that's basically how that works. What I've done here is I've built out a tool using conditional formatting and VBA to make it pretty easy to do this. I tried to make it as automated as possible. Here are some instructions. This talks about how to turn on those required settings, and this talks about exactly what goes into the conditional formatting, and then a copy of the VBA code that we're going to talk about. The rest of it is just formatting, so that's pretty much all that goes behind it. Let's see. So I've entered. So basically, what this does is, if we have an income statement and we have a tax return, and one of the issues I always ran into in my last job was I try to take the numbers from the income statement, and we'd have software where it would already be in this software, and we would transfer it to another software, and it would go into that software, and then maybe some things would have to change, and we'd change the numbers in there, and then couldn't get it to tie out, or I'd get it back from review, and it'd say, software A doesn't match software B. You have to go through and try to figure out where the issue is. Why is it showing 2,000 on this tax return line when in the software it's showing 2,500 or whatever? So that's what this attempts to do. It attempts to figure out which of these income statement items make up each tax return item. So every tax return is different. You have S corps, you have partnerships, you have C corps, and then you have a Schedule C. So what's been done here is you're going to have to enter. The first thing you have to do is enter the return line numbers. Just probably say return line numbers. Return line. It might be confusing. Let's leave it at that. You're going to enter, 1, 2, 3. You can see here, and then we enter the statement on the tax return. This here, I've tried to use the form function to so that I can enter it here using this. I don't know that it really does anything. It's probably just easier to enter it directly into here. So I'll probably just ignore that. But anyway, then over here we're going to list the income statement items, and so you can see right here, this basically says we want these two to be balanced. It has to be balanced. And so I've entered the income statement items right here, and it's not balanced, so I'm going to enter in. I've got 3 more line items, and I'm going to enter those in. These are 3 expenses. So we had uniforms of $480. We had shipping postage of $649. And then we have returned items. Someone returned an item, and that's $500. So you can see on that last one there that when we entered 500, it matched up the 500 in the income statement line item to the 500 here. And line 2 of this is the layout for the S corps is returns and allowances. So that makes sense. So we come down here, we see returned items, returned and allowances. That makes sense. If we had another number, let's say a duplicate, this is the only issue I would say with this is if we had like 500 here, it's also going to highlight that 500. So we'll talk about in a minute how to get around a situation like that. But we're going to assume for the most part that they're not going to be duplicates. Could be, and we'll talk about that. So I've entered that, and you can see that this is balanced. So we're good to go. We've gotten all the numbers in here. And now what we're going to do is this highlighting has already crossed off the numbers on the return that we can tie out. And then all we have left are a couple of numbers here. And so we want to figure out what exactly is behind these numbers. And we can sort of tell, this is revenue up here, so I can probably figure that, a big chunk of the revenue is right here, and then probably if I add up all these revenue things, that would give me that, and then these are expenses. So, but we want to know exactly pretty quickly without having to type in numbers and such, and do a giant hunt. So what this does is we're going to enter the line item up here. So we want to solve for line 1. We want to figure out what's behind line 1. And the code behind this is what this is going to do is inside of VBA, it is going to look up 1 on this table here. It's going to look it up in this column, and then it's going to return this number, and it's going to put that number into the solver function. So get this pulled up real quick. All right, so what we're doing first here with this code, just walk through it here now with you. The range m8.select. So in order for the solver to work, it has to be on the sum product cell. So it's moving. First thing it does is it moves the active cell to that cell right there, and then it does the lookup. So we're looking up M7, which would be looking up 1 inside this table here. And that's going to be first solver. And so we're assigning first solver to the value of. So if we were to open up the solver function, I don't believe I can do that. But let's see. Okay, yeah. Let's see if I can pull this up here. Nope. All right, so you can see that we have set object, value of, change variable cells. So all of these are going to match up inside the VBA here. Set cell is that first one, M8. Min max value, those are the 3 buttons we have up there. So we're saying the third one is value. That's what we want. The value we want in there is the whatever it looks up on that range there. And so this does the binary thing. So and this is what this does. Is it fills out the solver, and then solver solve, and then it's going to solve it. So it's pretty simple. And so what we're going to do is we're going to, once we have that, we've tied that to this button here. So what I should be able to do is when I hit this button, as long as I'm going to follow the steps here, I'm going to enter the line item that I want, 1. And I'm going to hit this button, and it's going to return. It says, okay, we were successful. And now it's put out the 1s there for the line items that make up this. And it's highlighted all of these. So I could do this with, I want to solve for line 12 now. And it's told me that it's these 2 right here, licensing fees and state taxes paid of 951. So that totals to 1201, and that totals to 1201. And then finally I want to solve for line 19. And it's successful. And it's telling me it's those 4 right there. So as far as duplicates, what I would recommend is if you do have duplicates, say this was what were we saying? Uniforms 500. That would increase this by what? 4127. What I'd recommend doing is you'd come up here and you say, okay, this is the return line item. So I know that this is the one that it's looking for. And I would just cross these out, delete them. And come up here and delete those ones that we're tying out. Let's see, what am I missing here? Okay, hold on. All right, so I've deleted all those from there, and so now what we have left over is just the ones we want to solve for. So then I could come up here and go line 1, line 12, line 19. And that avoids getting around the duplicates. Just to give you an idea of what the conditional formatting looks like in here, so on here in the income statement side, the first one where we're matching up the initial ones is going to look like this on this sheet. The if statement portion here just prevents the blank line items from being highlighted. If this wasn't there, then the 0 would match up with the 0. The count if is what comes through and matches them up. To be honest, I couldn't tell you exactly what this does. The count if, you know, I've tried to read this thing, it doesn't make sense to me, but I know it works, so that's all that matters. And then for the column, for the solvers, it's going to be simple. M14 is going to be going to be the first column there. I guess the one thing to note when you're doing the conditional formatting is to make sure that you lock just the one specified here. If you lock both of these, it's not going to work. And then over here, and this was in the initial Word document you can find. These are going to be a little longer, but it's the same as that first one there, except you're switching them around. Count if L14. So you're counting L14 to L47, that's the income statement, and you're starting at D11 and matching them up, figuring out which ones equal each other. So I hope that helps. Let me know if it works for you. Thanks for watching.